Hello, I would like to continue with Chayanov by introducing a book which is called Blades of Grass. Rural Cooperatives in Agricultural Modernization, edited by Peter Worsey and published in 1971. A section in this book was written by well-known Theodore Shanin, of which covered mainly Chayanov thesis. He analyzed the peasant cooperative regarding the size of agricultural holdings. Let me firstly start with Preobrahansky. He argued that a stage of primitive accumulation of capital must precede the necessary industrialization. The process in England had involved the exploitation of colonies, secondly, the creation of monopolies in foreign trade, and expropriation of the peasantry by enclosures. When we look at Soviet Russia, the other pointed out that Soviet Russia could not use the first two methods and was therefore left with the exploitation of the peasantry as the only way to take up until the self-secure further development. The size of an agricultural holding is always a discussion point in the literature when we look at the agricultural productivity and the use of technology in the field. There are some basic questions addressed by economists, and for example, Moshe Levin addressed some questions, and one of the questions: why did the increase in size of agricultural units, mechanization, not produce rapid and considerable increases in production? And moreover, later on, with the stage primitive accumulation of capital over an industry booming, why did the promise justification of collectivization not mature and lead to a much more successful development of cooperative agriculture by analyzing the Soviet Russian agriculture? Horizontal cooperation in this usage meant pooling the village resources, in particular the land, thereby increasing the size of production unit. This was seen as a leading to better use of factors of production. It would facilitate mechanization and in consequence would increase productivity. Such developments would also promote democracy and egalitarianism. If control of the enterprise were placed in the hands of the General Assembly or its working population. In fact, horizontal cooperation quite accurately anticipated Soviet collective farming and East European collectivization. Chayanov's group of team produced a thorough-going critique of the horizontal solution, which came to stress the need to take the particular characteristic of agricultural production and of rural society into account. Its main elements are firstly, maximization of an agricultural enterprise does not automatically lead to an increase in production. Above a certain point, concentration of land, equipment and labor will lead to severe difficulties in transport, division of labor, and availability of leadership, etc., and will make the increase in size counterproductive. The issue is therefore not maximization of size, but optimal size, which will be much lower in agriculture than in industry. The second one, the ostensibly egalitarian step of placing authority over the enterprise in the hands of General Assembly of Producers would mean, given the conditions of the time, that a small bureaucratic elite would take over extremely broad administrative functions. The shortage of educated people and of organizing tradition, experience and skill would necessarily be reflected in low standards of competence and openness to corruption. Such feeble local authorities would easily succumb to huge national bureaucracies and become their local plenipotentiaries instead of being representative of local interests and aspirations. And the last one, the horizontally cooperative, would cut across the vertical lines of social organizations typical of the traditional peasant community. The traditional peasant lines of authority, division of labor and support, such as the typical peasant household, patriarchal patron-client relations between neighbors, etc., would be transgressed. The cooperative would therefore operate against the type of social organization to which the peasant had been accustomed without showing clear economic benefits on the credit side. Horizontal cooperation would consequently have to be carried out in the teeth of peasant opposition. It would jeopardize basic incentives in peasant labor, a particularly dangerous situation in agriculture where the types of control of production typical of industry, both quantitative and qualitative, are on the whole impossible. Consequently, rather than focusing solely horizontal cooperation, vertical cooperation was therefore the answer of Chayanov's group to the need for change, which would nevertheless take forms acceptable to the peasants. The practically unlimited concentration of capital, typical of industry, would not work the same way in agriculture. We also see nowadays from the cases of European member states in the innovation systems with the tools of vertical cooperation in agriculture.